Heather, are we ready to go? Did I make announcements?
Stream is booting, give it like, usually it has like a 30-second lag.
Okay, all right. So make announcements or, yeah, okay.
One pass option.
Friend, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the announcements, and that way, when our live streaming is ready, we'll be ready to go with the meeting. So for those attending tonight's meeting, I'll start there, because the streaming people won't hear. Bathrooms are located in the foyer through the double doors. The emergency exits from the room are the door behind you or the foyer. It's 1 minute to 6. So we do the announcements and then we'll do them. If you haven't already, please sign the white attendance sheet on the table in the back of the meeting room. To improve the quality of the sound, there is a boom microphone located and in the corner of the room and directed towards the commissioners. The boom microphone will pick up background noise, including noise in the audience. So if you're struggling to hear, please feel free to move right to the front row. No clapping or booing. We're community coming together to discuss difficult issues in a civil and respectful fashion. This is a business meeting. We're asking for your cooperation to maintain decorum. Please be considerate and refrain from interrupting board members and other speakers. Okay? For those watching tonight's meeting via Diligent Community, the meeting is available live stream via the Diligent Community platform. Public comment is accepted in person. A link to the video will be posted to the Diligent Community website immediately following this evening's meeting. To improve the sound while listening to the meeting, please turn up the volume on your computer and turn up the volume in the Diligent Community site. The meeting packet for tonight's meeting is located on the Diligent Community site. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6:01 on September 21st, 2023, a regular board meeting. May I have a roll call?
Commissioner Hemmings?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Rapp is absent. Commissioner Root?
Present.
Commissioner Tyson?
Here.
Commissioner Lesson?
Here.
Commissioner Kodo?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Additions or changes to the agenda? Are there any additions or changes? I think we can get one change.
Yes, ma'am. So what we'd like to do is to go in the proper order for the D36 topic. We are moving agenda item 8.3 ahead of 8.2. So there's a flip-flop, if you will, so that we have the resolution discussed first, and then the actual intergovernmental agreement is second. So that's one change. And then council for the Park District is traveling and will join us by telephone sometime after 7 o'clock. So to give him enough time to travel so that we're after 7 o'clock, we're going to ask to move the staff reports, matters of the director, and the board liaison discussion items after the Kemper Sports discussion. So it's just after 8.1.
You'll guide me when we get to that point. Correct. Thank you.
Finish this discussion.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do Kemper Sports, and then we're gonna do staff reports and liaison reports, and then we're gonna go into the inter, is that what we're doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
Yep.
for the clarification.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Financials, Jim?
Thank you, Commissioner Cotto. The Park District's year-to-date financial performance through August 2023 continues to deliver a positive operating surplus. The operating surplus would be greater if we received the Cook County tax disbursement, the second installment on time. As we all know, it's been delayed until December. So our revenue projections are flatter than we anticipated because of that delay. We also saw fairly large expenditures for the month of August, be it end of season summer camp and recreation expenses that we paid, as well as the payment for a new Zamboni, which drove up our overall expenses. Our overall net operating income is $2.2 million, a little over $2.2 million, about $28,731 above our year-to-date budget. Our year-to-date operating expenses, operating capital expenses, and major capital expenses are all well below budget. A combination of these yields a $4,113,570 operating surplus. So we're in good financial position.
Thanks very much for your help. I really like the new reporting, and I just want to call everyone's attention to page 14, where we talk about the reserves, and Jim has added a column that talks about unrestricted reserves, and that's $19.1 million. So I just wanted to make everyone aware, we have a reserve requirement of 25% for each of the operating entities, and this is in excess of that amount. May I have a motion to approve the August 2023 financials?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion? That would be a roll call.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. May I have a motion to approve the vouchers for $1,817,117.96 as presented?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Moving on to item number 5, remarks from our first of 2 sessions of remarks from visitors. This is your opportunity to address the board on any topic. When called upon, please come to the center position in front of the commissioners, stand at the podium, speak loudly into the microphone. State your name for the record and speak directly to the board. We're going to endeavor to keep all comments around 3 minutes, both for ourselves as well as for the public comment speakers. And it's not a question and answer forum, so please don't expect a response this evening. If you prefer to share your comments in writing, you may use the comment cards, which are available near the sign-in sheets. Any Park District staff will happily accept your card to be shared with the board. Can I have anyone in the first row who would like to speak? Kate?
Do you want to talk? Hi, I'm Katie Stevens, and I'm not above begging you to stop this craziness. The Park District has a duty to us as constituents. My understanding is that you would put a second wall on Centennial, and there is only one possible reason. The Park District is planning to construct another 225-foot wall right next to Centennial, on the Centennial side, right next to Orchard 2020's wall that is going in as we speak. The Park District is planning this right next to this other wall. This wall would cost $7 million. Is this on?
Yep.
It blocks views, and we don't need a second wall ever. This is already a 100-foot beach. In addition, we would have a $3 million dog wall. So $7 million for a wall next to a wall, $3 million for a dog wall. The Park District appears to be using public funds for one person's privacy for a total cost of $24 million. Public access along the lake. The only answer I can come up with is that 205 Sheridan is asking for a bigger blockade for his privacy and for us to pay for it. $3 million doesn't cover one fraction of this cost. So you want me to traverse a 50-foot pile of rocks at a dog wall, 50 feet of our wall, and 50 feet of his wall, and we lose 150 feet of beachland without talking about the one on the north end, so 200 feet of precious beach. This is ridiculous and preposterous, and flat out that we as citizens do not want any of these 3 walls, and we don't want to spend $24 million on rocks in the lake. We want views of our 1,000-foot beach. Taxpayers are paying for what? No access, 4 rock piles, stormwater moving north. Are we paying for this? Why is the Park District forcing me without a vote to pay for a billionaire's wall? $24 million. I know he wants privacy and security, and I do not agree that access to the beach will be simple. He wanted a fenced-in dog beach in the last contract. And he wanted the dog beach on his boundary, control over Centennial and his private $24 million dog walls. This is an egregious breach by the Park District of its obligations to the public in favor of a private benefactor, and it is allowing to orchestrate barriers and agreements that are not in our favor. You cannot give, this is the main sentence, a private individual control over park rights, particularly with the donation for $3 million to go specifically to the beach project. No one controls our beach. It is my beach, it is your beach, and it is your beach. We have the opportunity, I can't figure out the benefit for us. I just want to look at the 1,000 feet of beach. We pay, we let him control our park, potentially, what you could have purchased. He wanted a buffer so there are no tables, no fountains, no people near his property in the last deal. Stop the deal, we want a referendum. We don't want to spend $24 million. The parkland to us is priceless.
Thanks, Kate. Susie, do you want to speak?
No thanks.
In the second row, there's no one. In the third row, the gentleman who just arrived, would you like to speak? Okay. Why don't we start at the back row and then we'll work forward in case you decide that you're ready. I don't want to rush anyone.
I wore my coat tonight.
Hold on.
I wore a sweater.
Well, if you were, I didn't think you were cold up here, but back there, I was very cold.
We were freezing.
You were freezing too?
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, it's his fault. Okay. Good evening.
Near
Okay,
it
at the
here.
September 7th meeting, I spoke about Elder Centennial, the proposed ADA ramp. I read the printed comment in today's board packet, and the statement that is printed is not the statement that I made. I am not in favor of the large, heavy-duty ramp that is proposed at Centennial for access to the beach. I had suggested in my remarks on the 7th that an ADA platform such as it is at Tower Road be constructed at Centennial. This platform serves a true purpose, and this creative ADA platform does not harm the existing bluff. From the Centennial parking lot, from the area where you can park your cars today, the pathway to this proposed platform that overlooks Lake Michigan is less costly, is ADA accessible, and the construction protects our existing bluff. Protection of Lake Michigan bluffs is a priority. The adjacent Elder Park, a mere 500 feet at the most to the north of Centennial, is already accessible to Lake Michigan. Due to the lack of maintenance over the last 4 years, the accessibility is not in appropriate condition. Maintenance is badly needed, but the bones already exist for complete access to the beaches. The ADA requirement is completely taken care of for those who require ADA access. Read the ADA compliance regulations. I am sure that the statement regarding my comments on September 7th has been reviewed by more than one person who presents the agenda and the packet to the commissioners for each board meeting. I request that you listen to my comments from the meeting on September 7th. I really don't need to tell you how I am a supportive person of ADA. I currently have been a very dedicated supporter of Misericordia Home for over 35 years. In fact, my nephew is a resident. I also served on the Winnetka Park District Board when the first ADA requirements were presented. And we spent many hours and much money converting our parks, our beaches, and our buildings to comply. As I remember, the printed copy was over 500 pages. I asked the person who reviews the board packet contents to render this blatant error in today's packet. I have a picture of the platform at Tower, and I request that this picture and my remarks from today regarding ADA at Centennial be included in the next board packet. Here's the picture. We've all been to the tower, so you've seen it. Who do I give this to, maybe? Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Would anyone else like to speak?
Hello. I spoke in April. I spoke in July. Both times, I told how very concerned I was about the fact that I've been living here
Excuse
40
me, I'm
years.
sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Would you mind just stating your name?
Yeah, my name is Robert Mucci.
Robert
I'm an
Mucci, thank
attorney.
you.
How deeply concerned I was about how the fact that our system, which fundamentally relies on the survey, has just been discarded with respect to a multi-million-dollar project. And I was told that at this one survey, they intended to put it on the survey, but they didn't have time. And some people accepted that. I don't know how true that is. I give you the benefit of the doubt. You're our trustees and we trust you. I just took another survey, and I didn't see it on there either, where it asked the community whether or not they want to spend $15 or $20 million on an EP's project. So I ask you today, is it your intent to proceed with this project without putting it on the survey? Is that your intent? And I would like an answer. I direct it to the president because that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, so we don't usually go back and forth in public comment, but usually as we work our way through the agenda, you'll receive an answer to your questions. So we do that just to keep public comment a little bit more efficient.
I understand that, and I took the time to look at the Winnetka Park District handbook. And I don't know if you have access to that. Do you have that here? Well, it says right in the handbook that the citizens that come to these meetings are allowed to ask questions.
You can absolutely ask questions.
Yes.
And we can either respond after the meeting, or usually we work our way through the answers as we work our way through the agenda.
I understand. I didn't see the authority for that protocol in the handbook. The only authority I saw in the protocol for your declining to answer questions is if that specific issue is pending in front of the board. And this issue is not pending in front of the board, whether or not it's your intent to put it in the survey, because 2 surveys have passed already, and you hadn't put it on there. The people of the community have a right to know whether or not you intend to ever put it on the survey. And this is very important, because if you're not gonna put something multi-million dollars on the survey, it sets precedent that you don't have to put anything on the survey, doesn't it? So what happens to our park district form of government here if you feel you don't have to put things on the survey? What is our recourse? Because it says throughout the handbook, you're to act in the whole good of the community, not for a specific geographic section, not for a specific interest group or a billionaire. And throughout the handbook, one of the historical mission statements is to protect the bluff. It says that in plain, simple, clear English. Now, to give some certainty to the people of the community, they want to know what the status is regarding the survey. Are you going to put things on there or not that we can decide? Some people really want to decide because they come up here and ask for a referendum. You know, and if you go back in the history of Winnetka, we've had referendums for the purchase of Park District land and for the sale of Park District land. We've had referendums. It wasn't a park board doing whatever they felt that they wanted to do and not answering people's questions. So sincerely, I ask you to consider rereading the handbook and also the caucus rules. Because when you don't put something on the survey, I don't know if you realize it, you violate at least 15 separate caucus rules last count I looked at. There are 15 caucus rules that you violated when you don't put things on the survey. Maybe you read it differently, but I ask you to look at that. Because we have caucus rules that need to be complied with, we have the handbook that needs to be complied with. And you get in a lot of trouble when you start deviating off course and taking things off the survey. So we'd like to know, because it's our money, a lot of money, and we'd like to be included without any judgment on whether it's substantively a good deal or a bad deal, or if it's good or not. That's secondary. First of all, that people get to speak to whether or not they want to fund this thing. And that needs to be on the survey. I don't know who would not agree with that.
You're a little bit over time.
I understand.
You're close to.
But going back to the question thing, I think the only way you get out of answering questions is if it's on a matter that's pending before the board. And so people that come here to talk to you and ask questions, they have a right to ask questions. It says that right in the handbook.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the last row that would like to speak? Anyone else in the last row? Ted, you want to speak?
Hi, Ted Winnichenko. So I know I said this before this meeting, words are important. So I'm intrigued by the donation that has been offered to the park district. So, you know, a donation, like when I give a donation, right, I give somebody, and maybe not $3 million, but, you know, I give them some money and they go on and they do their thing, you know, whether it's Special Olympics, the Humane Society, whatever. I don't say, hey, you know what, I want you to save that cat. So what the park district has been offered is a tax dodge for a private individual. So the individual south of Centennial has multiple times said that what he needs, he requires, is privacy and security, because that beach is his and it's private and he needs it to be that way. And his first plan of like putting up a wall, sort of like on the coast of California between US and Mexico, didn't work out. And so I have to say that it's brilliant. It is like so brilliant. So we still have a deal that is dormant. I'm not sure what real estate law dormancy is, but whatever. We have a deal, and we're choosing not to say no, and he's choosing not to say no, and it's for that southern part of the park. The same part of the park that we are being asked to improve, even though potentially it may not even be the public's any longer. And that's where the brilliance comes in. By getting a charitable donation, he is avoiding paying taxes on the money that he would otherwise want to spend anyway to privatize more of the beach. And now with the new village council regulations about what the land can be used for if it transfers, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to build a house on it. He just wants it as a buffer to keep people from getting to the beach in front of his property. So gives $3 million, gets a tax write-off. The park district constructs a second breakwater. Why? Don't know. It's not going to add any real value to the beach. Puts up fences for a dog park, which doesn't meet the requirements of the Cook County code for dog parks because it can't be enclosed on all sides. So it's essentially illegal without some sort of special dispensation. And then after that's all done, I see this happening. I see more struggles about the land swap, being told that the land swap's gonna happen. He gets that land. He magnanimously offers to maintain the dog beach for the residents of the Winnetka. He doesn't care that 70 feet of his land is not developed because, you know, he has a brick wall on the bluff. And then down below, all he has to do is remove any access that's above the ordinary high water mark. And all of a sudden, he has not just one rock pile with steps over it, he has 100 feet of beach, 2 rock piles, and private land that he's gonna say, well, no, that's all private, you can't come across this. It's brilliant. It's totally long ball thinking. And I could be wrong. In 3 years, we'll know. If you guys do all this, I'm gonna point back to this meeting and I'll say, we all do.
Thanks, Jim. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Krisha? Angie? Okay.
Excuse me.
Yes.
I'm Miss Katie, before you leave, Katie, I want to make some clarification. I'm not aware of any expenditure which you reference or any plan which you reference.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to make sure the audience understands. We approved a plan in May There are no improvements, no rock wall improvements south of the dog beach. I don't know what you're speaking to, but it was very confusing to me.
He's talking to you. Warren was talking about the comments that you made.
What?
I was trying to correct any audience misperception because some of the comments you made did not square with the plans that had been presented. I don't know if you were looking at an old plan or something different. It was very confusing to me. I couldn't follow your description of the proposed improvements.
So let me say this, to answer the questions about what the plan looks like right now, because we did have two minor changes. One was the village is going to complete a Southeast Winnetka stormwater survey, and until they complete that survey, they won't be moving that stormwater outflow pipe. So that pipe will be staying right there. So that encourages us to repair that pier or explore repairing that pier.
So when you build the north end, are you putting pipe in it?
Just to accept that, but I'm just
So
gonna say.
you're still planning on moving it north?
Right, so let me just finish, because at the farmers markets, we've been handing out the frequently asked questions as well as the new pictures of what the plan is. So I would encourage you all to come. Warren will be there this Saturday. I will be out of town, but we have 50 copies of pictures and questions that we'd love to share with you.
Is it online?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's really hard to read, Christina.
So please
But,
come
you know,
and pick up a
a
hard
lot of
copy.
us are out of town on the weekends.
I understand,
But
I understand. In any case, I wanted to offer that up. We're gonna move on to item number 6, which is communications. I understand. We're moving on to item number 6, which is communications.
Point
And
of
I
order
think- Yes.
to the chair. We have now just answered a question of one resident. We have another resident who has asked us pointedly if we would add, and so we appear to be deviating from our agenda.
And I don't want to deviate any further.
Thank you.
And I do have a plan to address your issues as we work through
It
the
was
agenda
brought
for
up on
both
what
of
you
them.
just said.
Yeah.
You're incorrect. In the handbook, it says the park, Winnetka Park District Handbook has no authority over sanitation and sewage. And I heard that you were just planning on moving the sewer pipe.
Not us, Village Pipe.
Okay.
Village Pipe.
Thank you for correcting
Not at all,
me.
not at all, Village Pipe. John, communications, I think you have a couple things that you want to talk about.
Yeah, we have quite a number of communications regarding the intended donation from the Justin Ishbia family, so those are included, as well as an article about Commissioner Root, and also a number of comment cards from the September 16th Farmers Market tent that the Park District hosted, and I think Christina, you and maybe Warren and Jeff were at that. I can't recall which commissioners attended that particular.
The farmers market?
The farmers market.
Yeah, so I have a list of who's attended all of them so far, and it's been a great effort, it's been a great opportunity to reach people. You know, everyone has a different schedule, some people are available on weekends, some people are not. We're trying to reach as many people as we can in as many venues as possible. But we have handed out quite a number of plans, quite a number of frequently asked questions, and had a number of interesting conversations. So I think it's worked well. Warren will be there this weekend. I'll be there every other weekend except for the 21st of October. Jeff Tyson, James Hemmings have stepped forward, Colleen and Cynthia Rapp both worked one of the farmers markets as well. Two, excuse me, thank you.
Happy
farmers
to
markets.
come on Saturday
There you go.
and join you, Warren.
That would be a good team.
We'll
That would be a
work
good
together.
team.
All right.
That would be a good team. Okay. Okay, so we have a couple agenda items. I'm gonna bring actually the ED schedule items up later, okay? When we go to staff reports.
Correct.
We have item number 7, moving on to item number 7, which is the approval of the minutes and the consent agenda. So I've been intrigued by following the village's example. They list all of these things when they've been previously presented and they've been previously discussed. And we've had an opportunity to work through our questions. And they vote on the entire consent agenda at once. So following the example of the village, we've grouped together items that have previously been presented and discussed for approval. So without objection or request for removal of any specific item from the consent agenda for individual consideration, We will act on the following items with a single vote. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I had made some suggested and very terse modifications to the minutes. And I understand, Commissioner Poto, that you circulated my one-page request to all members of the board. I guess I'm going to ask if anyone else had any changes or desired corrections to the minutes, if any other.
I think the only other one, and we included Commissioner Rapp's one change that she requested in that same email to the commissioners.
And I did not receive, in
Sure,
other words,
yeah.
you didn't make the change. Well,
No,
in the
no
interest of
changes.
brevity here, and if no one else had any difficulty with the minutes, I tend to be a stickler to try to have the scheduled minutes actually reflect the subject. And thanks to Peter Murphy, who gave us wonderful materials when we had our self-evaluation. I'm going to suggest that I probably will be the only commissioner who may vote no, and that there's a way to handle this without taking everybody's time. And that is, I have prepared a letter of disagreement that attaches, just for the open meeting, that attaches my requests, and then that can be put in the back of the minutes that are so approved, and that will expedite everything,
I think that's efficient. I think that's
if the board so agrees. And then I have one other point of clarification, and that is on the change order requests on contracts. And it was just a question dealing with the Lakota contract and the 3D. So I don't know if it's appropriate to ask that that be removed from the consent agenda, and it's just so we could have that
We're in
one
the
time.
discussion period, so we can discuss.
I have no problem with the Lakota contract. I just have a request. Instead of 4 3D visuals, and I know they're expensive, if we could have 6. Because I think it's really important that our constituents who have asked and asked that we do this have the ability to walk either from north to south or from south to north, starting, if we're moving north, starting at the boundary at 205 Sheridan, so that they can see what the dog beach is going to look like, what our Centennial breakwater that is 170 feet or a bit more moving north is going to look like, so they can see the swimming beach at Centennial, so they can then see, as they walk Elder, just kind of from the southern boundary of Elder, seeing the pier, and then seeing the breakwater in the north. So it seemed to me that that required 6 renderings or 3D virtuals. And then my other request would be, you're a tall man, and I think it would be great if we did what other communities have done with their 3D virtuals, where they have an adult with a child walking, so that folks can see, what the adult's gonna see, and then they can see what some of our little people can also see.
So like how you looked at me.
No, I'm thinking of a child.
That's
I'm thinking
okay.
of a child.
It's totally okay. Totally.
Peterson perspective,
Yes,
Dakota
yes,
perspective.
yes.
There you go, I
Exactly,
think that,
exactly.
so it's just a suggestion.
Yeah. So here's a way that I think we can do this, and I appreciate your efficiency on the minutes. I think we can approve this consent agenda and then add a change order for the additional 2 if you and Costa talk together and decide
Okay.
that's how you want to go forward.
And provided the board agrees. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a
Thank you.
separate item, or do you want, go ahead.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I think it would be prudent at this time to just suggest that we allow the original contract for the change order for Lakota Group to include a not to exceed $10,000 threshold for additional Lumion renderings as needed for perspective. The renderings are between $200 to $2,500 per rendering, so that would net between 4 to 5 renderings in addition to the original 4 as needed or per request of the board. So this way, if the board decides to move forward with additional renderings, we can without having to come back to revote.
Okay. All right, so let's make that let's make that adjustment to the Lakota piece of the change order.
So the approval would be not for 28,000, but not to exceed 38,000 in total, which would include, additional renderings as requested by staff. That's the way that I would review that.
Okay. John, do you have that wording? Denise, do you have that wording? Okay, perfect. So we have a motion on the table, we have a second on the table, we've had a little bit of discussion. We have an appendix to the minutes. James?
I do have one, if you don't mind, Commissioner Cotto, if I ask an audience member a question. Mary, you had mentioned that you had been misrepresented in, I think, the statements of the meeting minutes in September 7th, is that right? And based on your I wasn't at that meeting, but based on your comments tonight, what I understand your issue was maybe the phrasing there, right? I mean, I think it can be read a lot of ways.
It's in the packet.
Yeah, and your concern was that you didn't want to be represented as having been against ADA access, but rather the manner of and the method by which we were going to attempt to provide ADA access on that particular property, right? Okay. I will write a separate memo that will also go into the file on the back of this as well,
Okay.
that I hope will clarify Mary's concern and the meeting minutes as well.
Excellent, thank you for
Thank
catching
you. I
that.
was a little taken back by that.
No,
I got very taken back.
No, I didn't read it the way that you did, Mary, but I can see now why it was read that way, and I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you for catching that, thank you.
Will my comments still be in the packet that I requested?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so we have three amendments, one to the change order, one to the comments of Mary Garrison, and one appendix to the comments, including the edits that Colleen submitted. Given that, are we ready to vote? Any additional discussion?
May I offer one quick point of clarification?
Yes.
On the unchecked cash policy, the last meeting, I mistakenly said it was going to be certified mail. It's not. It is first-class mail, and it is written in the policy, in the document. So I want to make sure that the board's clear on that
A
point.
fourth edit here. For
Well, the document itself is correct. I
Okay.
misspoke. I'm just clarifying
Okay,
that the
perfect.
document is accurate.
Okay. Are there any other admissions that people want to make this time? I feel like we're in a confessional. Okay, all right. We have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion, we have some amendments. I believe now we're ready for a vote, roll call, correct?
Yep. Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Cotto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you very much, all of you, for your edits. Yes, absolutely. We are now at item 8, correct? Kemper.
I'll be right back.
Thank you very much. So while we wait for Kemper, I wanted to pass on some additional information about the surveys. We don't have any, we have input into the caucus survey in one way. We sent in all of our questions in June, but the caucus is completely independent of us, and they will respond to what they feel the citizens need to, what the citizens need to speak on. So the caucus survey just closed 2 days ago, on the 19th. So we hope to get results from the caucus survey very soon, but we don't control that survey, we don't send that survey out, and we have not yet seen results from that survey. And here's the Kemper team.
Good evening, thank you. We're going to give our monthly board update here on the progress over at the golf club. There's been quite a bit happening. Obviously, the growing has started. We're going to talk a little bit about the construction manager's going to give you an update on construction. Matt will talk a little bit about the operations. Mary Kate will give a brief marketing update, and then we will go through the financials. Tia?
Hi, good evening, thanks for having me. I stand in front of you, happy to report that we have 18 holes completely seeded, and as of today, we have grass growing on 18 holes. So, that being said, we are moving into the par 3 and wrapping up just final grading issues and seeding on the par 3. Irrigation's in, major earthwork has been completed for about 20 days now. So major earthwork's been done. We are maintaining roughly about 11 holes right now on a weekly basis. Mowing greens, mowing tees, fairways, rough, spraying, fertilizing, doing basically our regular routine on those holes. In the coming weeks, granted Mother Nature gives us a little break, we're gonna start maintaining more holes next week. And so I would say by the middle of October, we will be maintaining the entire golf course. Not able to be played, obviously, but we are mowing it and doing our weekly maintenance.
We also have a video to play, which will give kind of an overview of the progress since August. There should be some sound too.
Hey, Andrew, while we wait, how many deer are eating the grass?
I counted 11 yesterday. Just standing in one area, there was 11 sitting there. So it's been pretty difficult to get freeloaders.
Your grass was in the front yard. Unbelievable,
Looks fantastic.
right?
It's great.
While
These are the kind of movies that
While
get
the
done.
presentation gets queued up, Andrew, great job so far. I know it's not done yet, but great job so far and everything. And thank you, of course, to Costa for all your support as well and everything you've done.
Par 3 update on the seating or piece of the puzzle?
We are going to be working through the weekend and continue moving forward. Completion date is still the same, as far as I know at this time. So we're good.
Like a quick overview of what we're seeing.
Okay. So top left, that's basically looking out from 18T. 16T there in front of you. To the right, looking right down 18. Pretty spectacular view from there right now. And I've taken progress photos from this point, even when the lake wasn't there. So it's been pretty neat to see the lake be built out. Top right, we just have the hydro mulching. That is number 18 as well. The middle photo on the right is number 1, being hydro mulched. So seeds all down. At the bottom right is 18 green, looking back across the property over 15, 16, over in that direction. Bottom left, you will see something that looks like damage. It is. It's a bike track. Very noticeable. Someone on a bike has been out and about and has driven across. This is number 5 approach near a pump house. There's been other areas where he's driven across, or he or she has driven across the golf course. Additionally, we also have people playing the northern holes, taking divots from tees, fairways, and even a green. So we do have somebody out playing after hours. We have not made contact with this person.
And I think it's important to note that we've been, the fencing is still all surrounding the perimeter of the golf course. Construction is still taking place. There are still folks out monitoring for people out there walking, etc. We've been working with Matt and Andrew and Costa to investigate, obviously keeping that fencing up full time. We do have some signs up out on the golf course as well. And then we're also looking into some other avenues such as live security, the possibility of live security during certain time frames when the complex is shut down. So it is a little bit of a setback for us, but it is something that happens when you do construction projects like this. You are going to get some people that unfortunately sneak out.
Is it a camera-able area? Can you camera up any of those locations?
We would need Wi-Fi access, or we could put deer cameras on.
Deer cameras.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I did.
It's crazy.
Yeah, we could certainly do that. Can you go to the next slide, please?
Okay, all right, so operationally, we continue to sail along. So the driving range is doing great. I can tell you, already in September, we're up to 18,000, so we're above budget for the year on the range with still some time to go. That low figure you see September last year, if you remember, the nets were all destroyed last year in that storm. So we're flying along there. The course tours are going along. We had to cancel last week because of rain, but otherwise we've got those going along. I know I've guided the group and some of the people in here, and then we're back out this weekend, and then we're going to set up some more tours in October as well.
It's a big topic at the farmer's market.
I'm sure.
Big.
That's great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Bring them out.
I just tell them to call Matt. Sorry,
absolutely.
yeah.
So PJ Hope, we've got, obviously, we wound up our program early in the year, but all of them have wound up, and we've got a event that's going to take place out at Cantini coming up on the 28th. So it's a great year-end event where everyone's there that participated in it. A lot of us from Winnetka that helped coach those veterans up are going to show up for the event too. So they'll play, and then there's awards and presentations afterwards, all put on by Kemper. So we're excited for that event. And then clinics, which is Discover Golf, are going on strong. We've got winter registration coming up here shortly when that goes out. Fall clinics are heading along. They wind up on the 15th, and then they'll kick into their winter stuff starting in November. And then high school golf, short but sweet season. The freshmen only play for about 4.5 weeks, so they're done. They turn in their bags tomorrow, and then the varsity players will have their conference and regionals, and I assume they'll make it down to state, which they moved back or moved up a week this year to try not to play in the snow down there. But otherwise, we're going along strong.
Okay, so on the marketing front, so we continue to update the website as needed and track activity as well. So as you can see, the renovation page on the website is still the most viewed behind the homepage, which is the goal for us. On social media, we continue to see growth in our following. We're posting videos of the renovation along with photos, Tip Tuesdays, and then we will post when we have the new dates for the course tours. We'll get that out there, as well as our last fitting day that's upcoming here in a couple weeks. The course was included in an ad in Chicago District Golfer Magazine, if any of you received that. It was a frequent fairways ad for Kemper Sports for the fall, so Winnetka was listed there, so that's good exposure for the course there as well, and there are some other digital ads being run for that program right now. And then we're actively in the process of working on our 2024 marketing plan. Big component of that, of course, will be a reopening media plan once the course opens later in the year. And then we do have one more video here. This one is really cool. It's a time lapse since we started filming in March. The drone company coming back out next week to do their September update. We'll likely do an October update as well, and then have them back out in the spring again too. So we'll have all that complete footage.
All right, the merchandise, or the financial update, merchandise revenue for August, 23,000 versus a budget of 5,000. So Matt continues to push forward with our Callaway fitting days and our fitting days in general, which have clearly proved to be beneficial not only for revenue, but also to serve the community, to keep people coming back into the golf club, to get equipment in people's hands, etc. I ran into one of our Callaway reps this week. He was thrilled with the program. We talked about continuing the program next year being a fitting site even when we open the golf course. So just a phenomenal year, Matt, with all the fittings, and a job well done. Clinic revenue, 19,000 in August versus a budget of 10,000. That's the Richard Franklin Discover Golf Clinics. They've really caught fire. He does a wonderful job with the kids. I think we've showed a couple of videos over the last couple of months of his programming. We will obviously roll out some winter programming over the winter, and we expect next season to be even stronger when it comes to clinic revenue. Payroll is going to start ramping up, obviously, as we start to grow in, and then it'll dip again as we get into November and December with the off season. We did spend $22,000 for sand versus a budget of 0 in August, but that was really a cost that we have the expense dollars in the budget. They're just in September and October, so we spent it a little early. And we spent $32,000 in the seed category. It's called seeded trees is actually what it is. But that was actually money that we had spent. We had outsourced some of the tree work that we had to have done just because of the delicate nature of the tree work, and that shows in the August financials. Lesson expense is $31,000 compared to a budget of 13. So the clinic revenue the expenses doesn't always match up with the revenue. Sometimes it's paid out earlier or later. So So this will obviously equal out to the split at the end of the season. Net income in August, negative 144 versus a budget of negative 137. Year-to-date, negative 414 versus a budget of negative 747. So again, the message, we've lost less than budgeted. Matt and Andrew and the teams continue to be very careful as far as their spending, both payroll-wise and operating expenses. I will say we do have some upcoming costs. We have the handrail costs, hopefully the handrails, and then we also have the difference between what was budgeted for Wadsworth originally for the bunker work and what their proposal came in to be, which we had promised from day one that we would absorb those costs in this budget. It's going to be about another 100,000 give or take. So I anticipate coming in probably around 170,000-ish favorable to budget at year end. That's what I'm projecting right now. And things are rolling pretty well. Things are good. Questions by anybody? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you for the great tours that you're giving. The first day of tours, I was there with one of our veteran commissioners, and I can't wait till you get the rails on those bridges, because Miss Garrison was doing wheelers in her golf carts as you went around one of the really high bridges.
They're a little scary.
But I can't wait to play this course. It looked absolutely incredible. So I want to thank you all so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. I will say when the water fills those streams, the water's going to come up fairly high, and the drop off is not going to be near what it looks like.
Cushion, different.
So, well, thank you for the support. Thank you for everything, and we'll be back next month.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, because we are still a little bit early, we have staff reports and liaison report.
So as far as the staff report, Jim, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you. Two quick items. The first, at the request of Commissioner Rapp, I reached out to our auditing firm, Lauterbach and Amon, to talk to them about auditing construction invoices. It is not a service they provide. They do not have the expertise to do that. That's not what they excel in. They tend to look at processes. Do we go out for 3 bids? Do we get board approval? That sort of thing. So they declined the opportunity to do this service. The next item I want to talk about is the bond yield restriction issue that we talked about at the meeting in August. At the time, I was asked to put together a projection, right, which I have here. I'll pass this around.
How close are we?
We have a little bit of time. There's going to be 2 slides in the back of the memo itself. The first is, it will say before transfer and after transfer. I'll explain what that means. In the last week, we have paid out $1,047,120.94 of construction-related bills. The vast majority of that is stormwater expense to the village of Winnetka. We had some other expenses for Red Barn and soil board expenses. What we did, we paid that out of our operating surplus. We are going to reimburse ourselves with bond money. That will do 2 things. First, it will lessen the impact of the arbitrage earnings over time. 2, we can keep that bond money in our operating accounts and keep the interest that it will generate. Rather than giving that interest back to the federal government when we're done, we keep that interest for our own use in the future. So tomorrow, we will move that $1,047,000 from our bond account into our operating accounts. And that's what the before and after transfers means on the graph. On the before transfer graph, the purple line at the bottom is what we are allowed to keep per the bond contract, the 1.973 interest rate. The red line is where we are right now, right? Now, the green line and the blue lines are projections. The green line is if interest rates go down, I don't expect that to happen. The blue line is if interest rates go up another 0.25%, which is probable before the end of the year, right? The second slide will show after transfer. And if you look at it, under October 2023, you're going to see where the line takes a slight flattening dip, right? That shows that once we move that money, we will not hit our arbitrage point until August of 2024. If we did not do the transfer, we would hit it sometime in May. So it's buying us about 2.5 months worth of time to make some decisions on how we're going to spend the rest of that bond money, right? The black vertical lines here are a margin of error. I put that in case the rates go up even further than 0.25%, as is expected. So if it goes up even further, that was every 0.25%, we lose about 6 weeks.
So when we originally, I have one question for you. When we originally did this financing and when we originally scraped all the reserves from all of the operating accounts into the monies that we were planning on using, and we did Lloyd Beach, we did use some reserve monies. And so we could pay back our reserves, as you said. We could also pay back some excess reserves if we wanted to, correct? We could pay back everything that we took from our reserves to do in conjunction with the financing to do the project.
Right.
Okay.
So as long as it's related to the lakefront in that
Yes.
respect, yes.
Got it.
So you've already looked at Lloyd, and
Yes.
the invoices in collaboration with Costa, so we have sealed that.
Yes.
We've addressed that
Correct.
particular issue, so that's
So
been
those
done.
That's been done already,
Yeah.
yes. That's already
And
been
the
done.
stormwater costs that Jim referenced a bit ago, where we're at about $1 million paid to the village.
Yeah.
That's really for the golf course.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
for anything but the
Yeah,
golf course.
yeah.
So
Which is
just
a
wanted to-
permissible use of funds.
Yeah,
Correct.
it is,
Yes, it is.
absolutely.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, well, anything that we can do to make sure that we minimize the amount that we have to give back, because who would have thought that we would be borrowing at 2 and earning at 5
Right.
in this short period of time?
It's also important to note that if for some reason we should exceed that arbitrage threshold, there are no penalties or fees associated with doing so. We just simply have to return that excess money to the federal government in a timely fashion.
Right.
So there's no.
The excess earnings.
The excess earnings, yes.
Okay,
Correct.
perfect, okay. All right, that's helpful, thanks, Jim.
Well,
Anyone else, staff reports?
Well, can I go back, Jim? You had talked about the process that you had with Lotta Rock and Union.
Yes.
They looked at how I just want to make sure we articulate correctly. We have a process where we get 3 bids, the invoicing review, the payment, et cetera, is correct.
Yes.
According to Lotta Rock and Union. Independent from that, how we assess the invoices and the completion rate is the piece that they are not equipped to handle, correct?
That's correct.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that
Thanks
was
for
clarified.
clarifying
Thanks. Denise, do you have any updates?
I just will continue, I've been sending you guys updates from HR, concerning the search for the new executive director, so I'll just continue to forward those on to you as I get them.
Did you want to say how many we received? so far?
Could you speak a little louder, please? Your voices are all tending to drop down
Sure.
between.
There are 20, as of now, the last time they gave me a report, there were 22 applicants, and they just sent out their new, which I think you've all seen, they did a really nice marketing brochure, and that's been sent out and is circulating, so hopefully that will drive some more attention.
While we're on the topic of executive director and search, I want to put a couple of dates on people's calendars. The first part of the search is GovHR. They've generated 22 candidates so far. The search will close on October 6th. They'll filter through those candidates and reduce it. They'll deliver probably around 4 or so to Epley. Epley will conduct a series of conversations with them. And then our board, as many of us as possible, will be required to do a round-robin, full-day interview, most likely on a Friday, and then a closed session, discussion, meeting, and vote on a Saturday morning. So the ideal would be if every single board member were there. And the dates that work with the timing of GovHR and Epley And our 3 meeting in November calendar would be November 10th, the Friday, for an all-day round robin session, as much of it as you can attend. And then 11/11, Saturday morning, and we can make this as early as possible to avoid conflicts with kids' sports or any other activities. And that should be a shorter meeting. It should be a final round of interviews and a vote, and that would be all board on a Saturday morning. And I imagine that would be at most 2 hours. But this Friday would be a full day, including a lunch and perhaps a dinner. Just want to get those on people's calendars. Thanks, Denise. Any other staff updates?
Thank you. From the Parks Department, a few things to report. Working through budget, of course, being mindful of where things are at. I think we're going to be circling back, on October 5th with the long-range plans, and Jim and I are working through that right now. And then out in the parks themselves, tree planting, miscellaneous construction projects, wrapping things up as we start to close out and look to close out the 2023 season. If there's anything, questions, concerns, or projects, let us know. I have been in contact with the Village of Winnetka as it relates to the master plan and presentation of that, so I'm trying to get dates on the calendar, so we'll circle back to the board on that and when that will be presented. Where the master plan was completed by the Lakota Group as contracted through the Village of Winnetka and supported by funds from the Winnetka Park District as well. So that's forthcoming. As it relates to construction, I've had an opportunity to sit down with both Jim and Cynthia to talk through all the different construction phases and all the project phases to date. Basically reviewing all the invoicing and payments for Lakota Group, Space Ghost, Christopher Burke Engineering, as well as the Village of Winnetka and everything else that was completed, and have worked through spreadsheets to kind of show that. I would say based on our last discussion, I think that went very well, and she's appreciative of all the work that goes into that. I know Jim, I think he would have the same thoughts on that as well, correct?
I agree.
So,
Yes.
Just trying to make sure that, since Cynthia does review all the vouchers, that she's up to speed and understands where things are at. And if there's additional questions from the board as it relates to any of those projects, feel free to contact Jim or myself, and we can answer those questions for you.
And although Cynthia is enjoying immensely her job reviewing all of the vouchers, it is a shared responsibility for all of the commissioners. So if anyone is ready to step forward and relieve her, not that she has yet asked for relief, but I'd like someone to think about stepping forward at some point, because she's getting busy, and I want to make sure everyone gets a chance. It's a great way to see the projects from the beginning to the billing and how that part of the operation works. Okay. Any other staff members? Yes, ma'am.
May I just ask you a question, Costa? Last meeting, one of the questions that both Cynthia and I asked was whether we have a blanket master contract with the Lakota Group. And can you advise me now whether we do?
We have a signed contract with the Lakota Group based on the proposal that they submitted, with a few tweaks that staff the board had recommended for the insurance and the requirements for insurance. And that's what we have in place. We don't have a formal AIA document or anything of that, of course. We've never needed one in the past, and there wasn't one requested at this time for me.
The only reason I'm raising this, and I'm sorry that Park Council isn't here, but as I was thinking about it, we've spent, Lakota has provided a great service, and we've spent over $1 million since 2015. What I don't see covered in our contract, and why I think a master agreement might be appropriate, and this is really a question for council, is that there are provisions that you would expect to have, like conflict of interest, confidentiality, ownership of design, documents provided if there is a public request for FOIA, and those documents reside with Lakota. That's why this can be for another time, but I think it might be appropriate, and I will ask Park Council formally if it would not be a good idea to have some sort of blanket master contract. So it's just a comment.
Okay, perfect. Any other? Yes, John.
So Commissioner Coder, thank you. I just want to call out James Janescu, Toby Ross, Matt Barton, Debbie Zarinsky, Kate Erickson, and Gracie Durham They have worked really hard to prepare for the Bike Winnetka, which will be this Saturday from 3:30 to 5, both the 2-mile and the 8-mile path track. So again, 3:30 to 5 this Saturday. Overlapping that is Fall Fest, which is from 4 to 7. And that will be out here on kind of the baseball fields or northwest of the Skokie Playfield turf field. So probably the second biggest day in the Park District calendar, and a lot of people full hands on deck.
I will not be there this year, so they will be looking for a
we need a bar back.
Yeah. Somebody to tidy up behind the bar.
The Director of Recreation and Facilities, Beth Dostert and Taylor Brooks and Lynn Seebacher have been fantastic in helping to get the candidates to the semifinalists. Coach Catullus, Jim Crocker and I participated in discussion regarding the 2 semifinalists. We then identified the finalist, who was extended an offer earlier this week, and the finalist accepted the offer. There's still some steps to go through to ensure that everything is ready to go, but it's expected that the finalist will clear all those steps and be at our October 5th meeting. So that's exciting news. And just wanted to thank the board, those who were able to attend the Winnetka Women's Club event at the Dwyer Park Gazebo. I thought it went remarkably well. So staff was fantastic preparing for that, but the commissioners really were the X factor. So thank you for attending. And we plan to have one for the platform tennis, kind of a grand opening, if you will, for the 2 courts. We've also talked about something for Nick Corwin Park, either this year or maybe it's in spring of 2024, but more likely this year. And then also some consideration for the Butterfly Garden and the award that they received from the Smithsonian Institute. So we're trying to line up some celebration events, if you will, to engage the community. But more on those 3 additional events in due course.
Remembered something. I received a call today from a resident, and they were focused on the Lake Michigan Rescue Equipment Act. They sent me a copy of the report that is on the website of the Evanston Park District, and apparently this act was for the rings that we put up on all the beaches, but apparently there's also a requirement that twice a year we have to place on our website information as to whether we've had any lakefront drownings, of which we're aware.
Yep.
Are we doing that, John?
We're working on that right now.
Great,
Yes,
thanks. Appreciate it.
Great, okay. Any liaison reports? Any liaisons? Okay. I just have a couple points from the village. The village is working on several ordinances. The January 10th village meeting study session was an excellent starting point for everyone. If you haven't reviewed that, that's a great place to start. The September 12th was the second study session on these issues, and that was also a really good meeting. That went till 10 o'clock at night. And then on September 19th, just this past Tuesday, there was a very short, probably 10-minute summary at the very beginning of the meeting that I thought was a very good 3-point summary of the issues that they're going to continue to study. Their next official study session for steep slope ordinances will be November 14th. So it's of great interest to all of us, citizens and park board.
Did you say November 14th?
November 14th. That's a Tuesday. Remarks? Oh. No, we have, excuse me, we are going back. We have Adam.
So matters of the director, and then we will patch in Adam. Just
Okay, or we can also, do we want to consider the intergovernmental agreement?
So I think we have to do the resolution first,
Correct.
and then the intergovernmental agreement. So if you'd like, I can patch Adam in right now.
Yes,
Okay.
why don't we do that? Because we have Emily Rose here. She's here for 15 more minutes before carpool calls her. Yes.
Hey, Adam, I'm going to put you on the speakerphone. And to talk about the resolution for conveyance of the intergovernmental agreement, and then we'll move into some other topics, but those are ready to move right now. You're ready to go. Okay, Adam, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Okay, so item 8.3, which is the consideration of a resolution authorizing transfer of property from the Winnetka Park District to the Board of Education of Winnetka Public Schools District 36 pursuant to the Local Government Property Transfer Act. May I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing transfer of property from the Winnetka Park District to the Board of Education of Winnetka Public Schools District 36 pursuant to the Local Government Property Transfer Act as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to say that I think we've come a long ways aboard on this. The fact that as someone who values open land, the idea that we are giving away open land that's not needed for the construction of the gym has been one I've had a hard time coming to grips with. The fact that we have been assured and seen a copy of the proposed deed where there will be a reversionary clause where should that land ever become something other than open land, it can come back to the park, I think is a big step, and I thank James Hemmings for your comments there. Again, philosophically, I think this sets a very bad precedent. And yet I want to be cooperative with what I think is the board desire to do this. It is my hope that we never, ever again make a gift of open land unless it is absolutely critical and necessary, but rather we go through the process of, if we must have an intergovernmental transfer, we go through the formal process of a sale. So just wanted to make that statement, and I thank you for your time.
I just want to say one thing. I see it as a trade. We're getting value in the gym usage, which is very precious to us because we have no gyms and we could not build nor borrow any gyms. And consequently to us, that represents huge value for programming and indoor space.
And my rebuttal to that is the gift of the 8,000 square feet on which the gym will be constructed, I viewed as consideration for the use of the gym. So we will respectfully agree to disagree on that point.
I just would like to add, echo your commentary. I think we have come a long way on this. And I appreciate your work and your commentary on it as well. I think it led to the result that we got, which I think is great. I don't think it's a gift, like I think Christine says. I think it's actually a trade for some valuable consideration that we're getting. But nonetheless, I'm happy that we were able to come to this conclusion. Your commentary noted here, but thank you for that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Denise, that would be a roll call.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Now we're moving to 8.3, consideration of a resolution authorizing transfer of property from the Winnetka Park District to the Board of Education of the Winnetka Public Schools District 36 pursuant to the Local Government Property Transfer Act. May I have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing transfer of property from the Winnetka Park District to the Board of Education of Winnetka Public Schools District 36 pursuant to the Local Government Property Transfer Act as presented?
I think we just
We just
did
Oh, I'm
that.
sorry. Sorry.
We switched
You know
the
what?
order.
Sorry, we did switch the order, and I am so
You gotta go
fixed
back.
on the 8.2, 8.3. Consideration of an intergovernmental agreement by and between the Board of Education of Winnetka Public School District 36 and the Winnetka Park District to transfer real property. May I have a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement by and between the Board of Education of Winnetka Public School District 36 and the Winnetka Park District to transfer real property as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Denise, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Thank you all for guiding me through. All right, now we're going back to.
Just one last item for the Winnetka Plan Commission has a meeting scheduled for September 27th, starting at 7 p.m. at the council chambers for the Village Hall regarding the Crow Island Elementary School and the Crow Island Woods Park subdivision. So just wanted to note that that is in your your meeting packet. So nothing for us to do, but just wanted you to be aware of since it's related to the last two votes.
Great. 8.4 is finished. We're moving on to item 9.0, new business. So we have a discussion of the proposed $3 million donation to the Winnetka Park District from the Justin Ishbia family to support the Elder Lane and Centennial Beach project. And I think the first person we're going to hear from is Adam Simon.
Adam,
to frame this for us.
can you hear Commissioner Cotto and the move to the proposed $3 million donation?
I did.
Okay, so you're on.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thanks for accommodating me. Happy to be able to participate by phone. Just in terms of how this process will work through the Park District's policy manual, policy 5.06 relates to Park District's policy on naming and renaming of park sites. And because the proposed donation from Mr. Ishbia would come with a request to name or rename a portion of the beach, most likely the dog park improvements. This is a policy that governs the process that the park board can consider this. There are some parameters in this policy describing who would be disqualified from partnering with the Park District for naming purposes. That includes that naming rights partnerships will not be accepted for many organizations whose mission or goal is in conflict with district mission, statement, vision, or philosophy. That goes into, there's more details about that. That's the overriding theme. It says the district will not accept donations from a naming rights partnership which is associated with the purchase or use of alcohol, cannabis, or tobacco products. You know, those types of products which are unwise to market towards children or minors. For the process described in the policy, it says the park board may authorize the executive director or assigned agent of the Park District to handle preliminary discussions and negotiations with potential naming rights partners when deemed appropriate. So the step we're at tonight is deciding whether to authorize the executive director and or additional representatives of the Park District to meet with Mr. Ishbia to review the potential naming rights partnership. So there's really two threshold questions that are germane tonight. As Mr. Williams read into the record at the last meeting, the donation would be earmarked specifically to accelerate the progress on the phase 2 improvements at Centennial Park and to increase the, to accelerate the completion of the dog beach improvements, the breakwater at the south end of the beach there, basically phase 2, which you're familiar with, which the park board has previously decided upon. Again, Mr. Ishbia has expressed an interest in accelerating the plans that the Park District Board has independently decided upon. He's willing to endorse those and accelerate the progress on those. So the first question is whether or not you're willing to accept the donation that you earmarked specifically for that purpose. And the second question is whether or not you would be willing to authorize the executive director and or additional designees to work with Mr. Ishbia and his representatives on negotiating for naming rights. So we can do that in sequence if you want to.
So Adam, if I understand this, it has to be introduced at a committee of a whole and then voted on? And are we considering this one meeting too early? The October 5th would be our next committee of the whole.
So there's a separate policy that deals with just general donations for the general park district system that are not earmarked for a particular purpose and aren't related to naming rights. And that policy is 5.24, and that describes a process that normally starts at the committee of the whole. We're operating under 5.06, which doesn't require us to start with a committee of the whole meeting. It just requires the park board to authorize the executive director and or an additional designee to work with the potential naming rights partner.
Okay. And then how does the product of those conversations get communicated back to the board and voted on?
If the board delegates authority to the director or another and or additional designees, then that committee would have their marching orders to go work with Mr. Ishby and his representatives to put together a naming right package or agreement. And when the committee is comfortable making a recommendation, it would come back to the committee meeting for discussion of that recommendation.
Okay. So do I understand the timeline correctly, that tonight we're designating people to be on the negotiating team? We already have a negotiating team for this land swap, so there's a possibility we could keep that negotiating team in place, number one. Number two, are we making a decision to accept an earmark donation or to study it and discuss it at the committee of the whole?
Tonight, we're looking for some policy direction on whether or not the board is willing to accept a donation that's earmarked specifically to accelerate the phase 2 improvement at the beach. Because based on Mr. Williams' comments at the last meeting, that would be a condition of Mr. Ishby making the donation.
Okay. So there's an earmark and then there's a namings committee. Okay. So we need,
Warren has a comment.
okay, go ahead.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I wanted to report to the board that I did receive a call from Justin Ishbia on Tuesday evening, September 19th, 2 days ago. Justin wanted to discuss the donation, and he was seeking to understand the details of the plan that was presented at the meeting on September 7th, the Committee of the Whole meeting. With respect to the donation, I thanked him for his generosity and suggested that discussions regarding the donation should go through council and to the board. He wanted to make sure that the donation would be used for beach improvements and not some another initiative. Justin suggested that he may have an interest in naming rights, to which I stated he should again go through council. I reiterated to him what I stated in our prior negotiation, that the donation would help offset the incremental costs of implementation of phase 2 of the plans approved in May of 2023. With respect to the details of the plan, I took the time to walk him through the elements of the plans shown in 9/7/23, including the ADA access path and the bypass around the dog beach and the entrance to the dog beach. I confirmed that the bypass route around the dog beach would be unencumbered by any gates, allowing the public to walk around the dog beach while transiting the lakeshore. Justin expressed his appreciation for my taking the time to explain the plan. Finally advised Justin that I would let the board know that I received a call from him. After the call, I spoke to John Peterson and Christina Cotto to advise them that Justin called me, and I provided a written brief synopsis of our discussion.
So we have two decisions to make. Yes.
Seeing that you have made a statement, I would also like to make a statement, and I will try to adhere to our 3-minute rule. I don't believe that the donation offer of $3 million delivered by Mr. Ishby's attorney, David Williams, to this board on September 7th is in the public interest. My objection to this contribution is that it is not an unconditional gift, but rather it is a quid pro quo, where Mr. Ishby is paying us $3 million to implement a beach design for Centennial that provides him with a buffer zone and an impediment to beach access that he has publicly stated in 2 meetings before this board he's always desired. As such, this contribution violates the provisions of section 5.06 of our policy manual because he's focused on a specific agenda. As currently proposed, phase 2 of our proposed plan strands 170 feet of Centennial Beach with a diminished and fenced dog beach that will be wedged between 2 breakwaters. One, which Mr. Ishbia is currently in the process of building, and then our proposed Centennial breakwater that will be 170 feet north of our current Centennial southern boundary. I continue to ask, why would the district design a beach placing a breakwater in the middle of a 540-foot beach? In my mind, the answer is very clear. This design provides Mr. Ishbia with the privacy and the security buffer that he has publicly said he wanted when he appeared before us last year. Mr. Ishbia also has said that he wanted a fenced dog beach on his northern boundary, and he wanted a large breakwater. Aside from the aesthetics of segmenting a 540-foot beach into small parcels, this construction plan impedes the public's ability to access and walk the beach, and it's contrary to the repeated requests of our constituents who have regularly come here and expressed their desire for open beach access and unimpeded lake vistas. The public and all members of this board have the right to know the full story and the complete truth before we move further to evaluate acceptance of a contribution in whatever form it may occur. Our preliminary agenda that was released on Friday had a draft of a naming rights agreement. I read that draft. For some reason, it disappeared before our public agenda was issued. But that draft contained a 50-year term for naming rights with 10 additional 10-year terms, so that Mr. Ishbia would have, in essence, and his heirs and descendants, a perpetual dog fence beach as our southern Centennial boundary. That contract also provided that the compensation, the $3 million, would be paid in 2 installments. The first installment would come at the time that we signed a contract awarding a contract for construction for the improvements. The balance would come at the time that construction was complete. Section 5.06 of our policy manual dealing with naming rights of park sites prohibits us from accepting a donation for naming rights that promotes a specific agenda. The current Phase 2 design appears to meet Mr. Ishby's requirements that he discussed with us at his attendance of the meeting of June 16th and then September 8th of last year. This is not an unconditional gift. It's a quid pro quo. We have now traded a louvered, locked beach in a box with planter pockets for a plan that strands and fences the southern 170 feet of Centennial Beach with a breakwater located 170 feet north of our southern park boundary. A breakwater for which there currently exists, in my opinion, absolutely no technical data to support the reason for its construction. The original dream that we had for an 1,000-foot United Beach appears to have been abandoned by this district and its board. Many problems which the board and district currently face are the result of how we have handled lakefront discussions, many in secret, where Mr. Ishby's technical team jointly participated in beach design. It is time that we stop gaslighting our public. Commissioner Cotto and James, I'm going to ask you point blank. You recently had a negotiation session with Mr. Ishby. Did you ask him for money? Did you ask him for a contribution?
As discussed in our board session, we had a specific list of topics, including the question of an ask for donation. You knew about it. We executed, implemented those specific questions.
With all due respect, we had a policy that we agreed to last year. That policy was before you met.
Do not interrupt me, please.
You interrupted me.
I just stated that the agenda was set forth including and asked for a donation. The donation request was made, and Mr. Ishbia offered the $3 million donation. I've not seen any draft, so you have information that I have not been privy to. I've not seen any draft of the document.
So I want to answer the question about the agenda. So prior to our recent meeting with Mr. Ishbia, where we went through the agenda, and we had a meeting, I think it was in March of 2023. Yeah. So we had a March of 2023 meeting, and then this board felt we needed to go back to him at some point and let him know what our design was that we had voted on in May, and walk him through what we had decided on in May. So we spoke to him in March. We remained at different points. We continued our design process. We arrived at our designs, we generated our designs, we approved our designs in May. We refined our designs with the adjustments from information from the village regarding their southeast stormwater study that would not be moving their stormwater discharge pipe. We amended our design. Each of those pieces of the design process has been ours and ours alone. And we had not met with him since March. When we met with him again, we showed him what we had generated and explained it to him. And Warren further explained to him what we had shown to him. But in our closed session, we did go through an agenda, and it was debated about the ask, and we agreed to go through the ask. It has
Hello?
It has been, I'm still here,
Hold on.
I'm thinking about how to present this precisely, because it was not an expectation based on our history that this would be forthcoming. And consequently, it is a good surprise. It accomplishes, in my opinion, two things. These are our designs. We haven't met with this guy since March. These are our designs that we achieved independently. And after I speak, I'm going to ask Costa to speak also. And it accomplishes the objective if everything goes correctly, if we're able to go to permit, if we're able to refine these plans through the public comment process at each of the stages of these permits, if we're able to get to the village and have a document that the village can respond to. In theory, we could be finishing our project at roughly the same time that he is finishing his project, which I think is a gift to everyone who lives close by that area, rather than have us construct sequentially or attempt to do these piecemeal repairs sequentially over and over. I think it is an advantage for us. That's the biggest advantage I can think of for the citizens of Winnetka, and the biggest advantage I can think of for the Park District. Obviously, the additional $3 million is an advantage as well, but we have a donation policy, and we have to be very thoughtful about how we exercise this. This is someone we've been working with for a while. He's a neighbor, just like every other neighbor at any one of our 5 beaches. So the next person I want to speak is Costa, honestly, because I want, no?
Pardon me, Madam Chair,
No.
I was making a statement. I was interrupted by Commissioner James, which you approved. I've
Yeah.
not finished my statement.
Okay, why don't you finish your statement, and then I really want the next person to speak to be Costa, because I think he has some insight into the design, timing, and process.
Again, I will respectfully disagree that this is an independent design. Mr. Ishbia came in front of this board on September 8th, and he said he wanted a dog beach. I will not talk about things that occurred during negotiation sessions in which I participated, because I believe that that is still confidential. But I can assure you that, again, what he said on September 8th, I think, was very clear. It is the desire to perpetually control parkland. And I think that although we work with our neighbors, we don't give any other neighbor that sort of opportunity or that sort of right. Finally, and this is my last statement, as I understand the ethics associated with charitable contributions that are received by a government body, it has to be exclusively and solely for a public purpose. And you cannot provide a benefit in either goods or services to the donor. What I see happening here is the donor has coming to us and saying, this is how you will construct the property next to my property. It will be here and remain here for 150 years. He has always wanted a buffer. This provides him with a buffer, and it takes away from our park constituents the opportunity in future years to determine what they want to do with the beach as well as the tableland. I am adamantly against this. I think it's wrong. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. I'm going to have Post to speak because I think there were a couple areas where you might want to provide some clarity with regard to location, access, use, purpose, etc.
Christina, thank you. The work that has been done from the start of this process to current has always been done in a way that we've listened, we've presented, we've heard what the community said, and we have adjusted the plan accordingly. That was done through the open house sessions. Each one of those plan renderings, you can see direct change as a result of those sessions that were completed, whether it's comments directly received to the consultants and staff at the open houses, whether it was comments that was directed or received by the park board and from the patrons in open houses or in park setting, or excuse me, in board meetings and community,
Committees of the whole.
Committee of the whole, thank you. I apologize. We've always directed that plan and moved forward with that plan. And the evolution of that plan, once we included the dog beach and where the dog beach was located, we always looked for a way to protect that dog beach and help increase the safety between those two functions. The inclusion of the initial phase one where we built out steel, we removed the existing steel, put our steel out there with the intention of building that steel into a phase two improvement for a pier to divide those structures or those two independent beaches. That was done in a tasteful way to complete our needs for the off-leash dog beach, the swim zone as identified on the north cell of Centennial, and then further that, we've also taken ways to make sure that people were able to pass the site independently of the dog beach in a way that is very tasteful and safe for those to utilize it. So somebody can walk unimpeded from north to south without having to traverse or having any concerns around safety and their ability to do so. It was only until recently that we further that into the next stage, as shown previously in phase two, where we actually included a little bit further design on the end of that to make that more interesting. There were comments by previous board members to utilize and create a second pier location. There was talks about that certainly happening at the north side of Elder. It was discussed they would be better suited on the south side of Centennial, once again bifurcating those two uses. The use zone for the Centennial Dog Beach is 235 feet per plant, not 170 that's being suggested here today. And that is taking into consideration the refinement of the discussion, what was approved by the park board, no less than 170, no greater than 270. So once again, working off the parameters that were identified through the park board and the motions that were approved through this board for giving staff direction to facilitate a plan, ultimately to decide on how we can move forward. So I would suggest that what we've done to date hasn't been done in a vacuum, has not been done to sole source one individual party, but the betterment of the community and all the efforts done by staff, by consultant team, by the efforts of the board, and most certainly by all the efforts of the community members who have participated in this process from 2014 to current, trying to respect all the information that we've gathered and give back the best possible plan to date.
Okay. Warren, you've had your hand up.
The
3 minutes.
The dog beach was created.
With affection, 3 minutes.
Please. The dog beach was established in 1995. Winnetka leash laws were enacted in 2007. Cook County enacted additional regulations for off-leash dog parks. Our current dog beach is not in conformance. That's why it requires a leash. We established a committee to explore a potential alternative location offered by the village in Tower Road. It was suggested we could install a temporary fence. A temporary fence would not be sustainable. The exposure to northeast waves would obliterate it in short order, much the same way the old fence that separated the dog beach from Parks North was obliterated during the high water. Please, I invite the public to pay close attention. Look at the Phase 1 plan that was approved, adopted by this board as a solution. It is a compromise. It maintains the dog beach that exists today at the south end of Centennial Park. The difference between Phase 1 and Phase 2 makes no difference to the dog beach. What it provides is an extension of the ADA accessible area, and it will afford a greater swimming beach at Centennial. The initial plan goes out about 120 feet with one line of steel to support a fence separating the dog beach from the people beach. Phase 2 develops a pier at an incremental cost of $3 million that will then attach to that ADA access path. It allows somebody in a wheelchair to go from Sheridan Road all the way down to the boardwalk level and then out onto the water to enjoy that. It will also provide for the accretion of a much larger sand swimming beach at Centennial. The benefits of this donation and the implementation of Phase 2 accrue to the community, not to Mr. Ishbia. Phase 1 accomplishes the dog beach. Phase 2 improves the ADA accessibility and improves the swimming beach.
I'm going to pass out my comments, and attached to that will be the draft of the contract.
I don't think the draft is for public.
Well, I think it is. We have discussed it. It has been raised. It is not a confidential matter. It has been raised repeatedly in the media.
Can I ask a question?
So, but before I do that, I have the floor here. I sat on that committee for the dog beach, and I invite everyone to go to Gilson and look and see how Wilnet handles the separation of their dog beach from the people beach. They have removable louvers that they put in the water during the season, and they take them out in the wintertime. It appears to work very well. You can see through it. It meets requirements. So I think it is absolutely asinine that we are doing this, and that's my opinion, and I can say that. Now, one more comment, and then I'll be quiet.
And I want to move to Adams.
I have to.
What happens?
correct.
What happens if Mr. Ishbia decides that the property exchange agreement is no longer dormant, that it awakens, and he decides, post the Schresheim lawsuit, that he wants his 70 feet? We are moving forward and spending taxpayer dollars to build improvements on a portion of Centennial that may ultimately be his. This creates some confusion for me. I don't know, we're gonna have to move a dog beach?
We have a
Yeah,
couple.
I have to clarify something.
Yeah.
We've addressed Gilson Park. The Gilson Park Dog Beach is protected by a 485-foot-long stone break wall. It is oriented in a different direction, so that stone break wall protects their temporary fence from the north and the east. Their dog beach faces southeast. That temporary fence is protected. There's no way a temporary fence would be sustainable at Tower. Moreover, we have also expressed and demonstrated the safety concerns at Tower. It's a village-owned pier. It suffers from tremendous rip tides and large waves reflecting off of there. It's unsafe for people. It's very unsafe for dogs, and they don't have a sense not to go in there.
Excuse me, I'm not talking about louvers at Tower. I was talking about removable louvers as an option on Centennial, just so we clarify that.
I I want to loop Adam into this conversation because the,
He just said he's ready.
excellent, go ahead, Adam.
So, this is not a debate on the plans the park board has already approved. The agenda does not describe tonight as an opportunity to relitigate the phase 1 and phase 2 plans that have been endorsed by the board. They are what they are. The decision tonight is whether or not to accept an earmarked agreement that is designed specifically to accelerate the progress on phase 2 so that it occurs at the same time as phase 1. So, I understand everyone's had their statements, but I want to clarify that tonight's vote is not a vote on the plans. It's a whether or not to accept an earmarked donation to accelerate phase 2 so it occurs at the same time as phase 1. And again, this is not a final vote. This is just a policy decision so that you're giving direction to staff on how to take the next steps.
Okay, so we need, at this point, is there additional discussion? You want
I guess I'll do a point of order. If we're going to have a formal vote, whether you call it policy or otherwise, that should have appeared on this agenda. And this says discussion, not consideration. So I have a problem with, I think that we need to I guess.
That's okay, you've raised a point of legal order, so let me.
Consensus. And the board is allowed to reach a consensus to give direction to staff on the next steps. So we can take a poll, if you want to find out what the consensus of the board is.
So the decisions are two. There are two decisions. The second decision will be the negotiating team. The first decision will be to accept this as an earmarked donation to accelerate plans we've already approved. So I'd like to go, sorry, John.
And we've done restricted donations on a number of occasions, whether it's the Winnetka Platform Tennis Club, the Steppen Family Boat Launch, or the Winnetka Women's Club. So it's consistent with recent donations.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Steppen was very, very different. Our beach was already built. They came to us as part of our annual solicitation that the Parks Foundation sends out for donations, asking what they could do to help. And they didn't ask for anything in return. It's a 20-year contract. They have a dedicated storage space for 2 jet skis, but they pay the going rate. So in my mind, this is very distinguishable from Steppen.
Yeah, so 2 things. I would like to clarify that started probably in 1981 as far as a relationship with Mrs. Steppen. Number 2, the overall process, all I was reflecting was that it was a restricted donation.
So we've established with Adam Simon that the plans that exist are not under debate here, that the plans that we've established, phase 1 and phase 2, have already been approved by this board. So what we're deciding right now is whether or not we will accept an earmarked donation to help us accelerate phase 1 and phase 2 to be executed at the same time. James?
I have a question. Are we having a discussion on whether to have a negotiation with him about the earmark and the donation? Are we having a discussion on whether to accept it? That's the question I have, right? To me, the question is pretty a little bit more nuanced than I think is being discussed, right? Like, we're talking about a negotiating team for the purposes of negotiating, right?
Correct.
We're not talking about accepting a donation today, right? We're talking about establishing a team to negotiate with the man or his organization.
Correct.
To come to potentially an agreement on whether or not to accept, right? That would affect a donation, right? That's what we're talking about? Okay. So I think it's really unfortunate that we had discussion tonight about the board and the staff gaslighting the public. I think that was an unfortunate use of the term, and I thought that was a really unfortunate statement, because I don't think that's the case. Based on what I've seen, you can have your own opinion. I don't know why we care about whatever agreement he has forwarded to us at this point. Right? It doesn't matter. All it tells us is maybe what he's interested in his negotiation. It's not meaningful, right? Other than, thank you for letting us know what it is that you want on your best day. Great. I think if what we're talking about is deciding whether to negotiate with the guy, that's a much easier discussion to have. And I'll just stop there, because I think that's probably, for me, that's a bridge that I can cross at this point, right? Like, I don't think that I can cross the idea that we should accept it before we have a full negotiation of what it is that we're trying to accept.
That's a good clarification, because I think the terms will drive whether or not we can. Anyone else?
No, I'd agree with Commissioner Hemmings. We're not talking about renaming Parkland. Maybe we're talking about naming rights for the dog beach portion itself. Like, I don't know.
Maybe a breakwater.
I have no idea. So, then go have representatives from the board go talk to them? Absolutely. But we don't really know what we're negotiating quite right.
I didn't mean to interrupt, I mean, and ultimately, maybe there's no renaming of anything, or naming of anything. Because, whatever is in this thing he forwarded, or whatever has been suggested by Mr. Williams or Mr. Ishbia in his phone call with you, Warren, he said in the press it comes with no strings. And so, it may be that he is not really truly interested. I just say we can't really have a conversation about whether to accept something without knowing what we're being asked to accept. And so that's what I said.
So not to put words in your mouth, but you're thinking we go forward with the negotiation.
I see no reason not to.
And Eric, that would be your position also?
Yes.
Warren, what would be your position?
I think we should go forward with the negotiation.
Jeff?
That makes sense to me.
Colleen?
Well, I am all going forward with the negotiation to Mr. Ishbia. And what I'd like to see is a negotiation on where we head on the property exchange agreement. I would like to see in this negotiation a hold harmless and release mutually between both parties. I would like to see the donation of 261 Sheridan as part of this discussion. My problem with this is that, again, we have a individual resident, not a resident, we'll say taxpayer at this point, who is trying to tell us, to dictate it to us, what we do with money that he may finally or may not finally give us. If you recall, the executive session minutes that were released covering a period of 2019 through May of 21 showed many times when Mr. Ishbia promised he was going to pay this or he was going to volunteer that. It never occurred. Again, I have a real problem with this because to me, he definitely is receiving an advantage of what he wants, which is this buffer zone, this passive zone, what Warren, you called the pile of shit agreement that was the master agreement that came to you in March of 21. It was very clear on how he wanted to have a buffer, a segregation, and a separation. I think it's wrong as a government body for us to be talking about, well, we will consider this money, but you will want this and this and this. I don't think that's the way we should go about this. If the man wants to make us a gift, then make a gift. Don't put strings attached to it. Don't tie it down to any specific element. If he wants to make a gift, write a check to the foundation. This is my problem. We are paying for a lawsuit by residents that has been caused because we can't come to closure on a property exchange agreement that's now 3 years old. That would go away if the property exchange agreement went away. I'm sorry. I look at this and I think I will be definite, I'm trying very hard for unity, but on this issue, I am adamantly opposed.
It sounds like that you're interested in the negotiation.
I don't know if that's true, Mr. Hemmings.
But I think you just said you would be interested in having a discussion about a donation.
I am interested in someone having a discussion. Whether I would be the appropriate person is somewhat doubtful.
The board, right? A representative of the board having a discussion about the donation with them. You're in favor of that, right?
No, I'm saying right now to his counsel that's out here, if he wants to make us a donation, write a check. Cal Bernstein's sitting out there taking meticulous notes.
Okay.
I think we are conflating the gift of money with the fact that we've been unable to come to resolution on a contract that's now 3 years old. And to me, and we've been sued by our residents because of that.
So I want to circle back and make a couple points, and then I'll give my recommendation, because I think we understand your recommendation. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that
Oh, no, be free to do that. It's fine. I mean, I've said what I came to say tonight about this particular issue.
So I believe that we've arrived at a design independently. I do believe that. And I believe that we have refined and changed designs from last year in June when we pulled permits substantially. We're down to basic infrastructure on the plans. We voted on these plans in May. We've been looking at them for almost a solid year, refining them through a variety of processes. And I do believe that our plans are independent, number one. Number two, this is a negotiation, or what we are attempting to reach consensus on is a negotiation. Do we go forward or do we not? There is no downside to a negotiation. You're not committing to an outcome. You're not committing to any terms. You're waiting to hear what he has to say, and then you get to decide if you find those terms acceptable or not. That's the definition of a negotiation. This is a neighbor. We've had many, many, many conversations with other neighbors. Some of them have been productive. Some of them have been unproductive. Some of those situations we've gone forward to work together. Some of those we have not. This negotiation, I think, presents another avenue to attempt to reach some sort of agreement with this individual. I do not think that those efforts are unwise. In fact, I think exactly the opposite. I think if you have a neighbor and you share boundaries, you should negotiate if you're going to be starting a major construction project with plans that you've already developed independently. I think that there's no downside to a negotiation. I'm not agreeing to any terms. I'm not assuming that he is dictating any terms to me. I am saying I'd like to have the conversation to talk to him.
Primarily because we have not had a formal conversation with him.
Correct.
Since council presented the donation.
Correct.
Which, my understanding, would make it, in conversation today, it's the largest donation, one-time donation ever to the Winnetka Park District, in theory. We don't know anything about it, right? So we just need to dig into that. So have a conversation. I think it's okay to have a negotiation.
Madam Chair, I need to clarify something. This is not the largest offered donation that this district has ever received. When this park district was formed, and someone from the floor can help me, there was a donation of this land that sits here. Was it Bookwalder or Burlington? After that, the Bowles gave us the land for the golf course. Then there was the Bell Woods. I mean, all of those gifts would be, in the time they were given, much more than $3 million. The Nielsen's funded construction of the center and then the expansion of the center. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
Very generous people.
We have wonderful, generous people and have had through our history. You know what's interesting? They didn't ask for anything in return. So this, again, is my problem. Well, I've said enough about it. I'm redundant.
If I can clarify, Eric, I think it's the largest single lump sum cash donation that we've received.
As opposed to.
Correct.
It almost doesn't matter to me if it's the largest or the smallest. What matters to me is this is the donation that's on the table. This is our first chance to talk with this person. This is an opportunity to have a conversation. It is not a commitment in any way, shape, or form. It is not, we are going into this, we would be going into this conversation with our eyes wide open. After several years not executing something else, we would be going into this conversation with our eyes wide open. So that's why I would say it would be advisable to go ahead.
With a negotiation team.
Correct.
Yep. So appoint people to go have a conversation.
Yeah. I would suggest we just keep the same players. I think you've been on the negotiation team before. Warren and I are on this negotiation team now. I don't think there's anybody else that has the appetite or the interest. However, happy to entertain all people.
Go ahead, I think continuity is important.
I object to that. I think the negotiation team, for the benefit of the new commissioners, how it got started was Commissioner Seaman was concerned, and he wanted to make sure that there was a accurate summary.
Can we go forward?
I have the floor.
I don't need to be a part of this negotiating team. I think we should focus on which two people does the board want to
Perfect.
discuss this
That's fine.
donation with.
That's fine.
Let's go forward, please.
Excellent.
I
Okay, so I think
can't
that-
imagine
I
that we're
think it's
taking
a-
what is a generous
Yes.
offer to accelerate the implementation of phase 2 and somehow turning it into a dastardly deed.
So I think
That's
we have
very
5
unfortunate.
people who are willing to enter into a negotiation. We have 1 person who is opposed to negotiating in any fashion. Is that fair?
Not in any fashion at all.
Okay.
I think you should continue on with your quote-unquote settlement discussions.
Okay.
And until you finalize those, I think this is premature.
I think you attack them at any avenue where they address, they offer something. Each avenue, each successful negotiation could be a path to getting other issues solved. That is, I am a hope springs eternal person. So, yeah.
Just want to clarify. The exchange agreement is subject to litigation. That's why we're not touching it right now. Our duty to the public is to finally resolve this, which we did in May 25th, 2023, adopt a resolution approving the plans for phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Everyone in the vicinity of Justin's construction site is being impacted by that. That's probably a 2.5 year project. I think it is incumbent upon this board to minimize the disruption to the neighborhood, as Christina had said. Let's get these permits applied for, as we gave the direction back in May. Let's implement phase 1 and phase 2 simultaneously and be done. We'll have a dog beach, we'll have a swimming beach, we'll have ADA access, and we'll have corrected the deficiencies that we're aware of. That's what we decided in May.
With all due respect, if the property exchange agreement was resolved, in other words, the dormancy meant we walked away, the citizen lawsuit would be over
I
within
said
24
before, I'll
hours.
say again, there's no political will to move forward with the exchange
Hold on,
agreement.
Adam.
But let's move
Adam
on.
has a point he wants to make. Go ahead, Adam.
When you guys have reached consensus to negotiate with Mr. Ishbia?
Correct.
Who is going to represent the board in those negotiations?
Raise your hand if you're willing to negotiate with them.
Are you willing?
I'm willing. I will go back and try very hard.
I'm willing. Okay.
Got 3 of us.
I mean, yes, but I think it's important to have continuity in the history of the discussion, that's all I'll say. Like the people that have been in the discussions with them, ought to be the people that continue.
Louder, you're not picking up on the.
Yeah,
The
I'm
people
sorry.
that have been in the,
My feeling-
continuity is
I mean, the
important.
answer is yes. I'm more than happy to sit in the room and negotiate with Mr. Ishbia and his organization. But my belief is that continuity in the relationship matters, particularly here where there's a long history that I was not a part of. I'm happy to be a part of the discussion. I don't think I should be the person that leads or there should be a true break from the prior negotiating team. That's all I'll say. I think some continuity matters.
Well, I was part of the negotiating team through August.
It's interesting to me that you want to be part of the negotiation, but you don't want to negotiate.
Only because I think that we need some balance.
But
On this board.
I'm just not following it. I don't understand how
Well-
it is that you want to be a part of the team, but you don't want to actually negotiate.
I want to be definitely part of this board and part of the team.
Okay?
What I'm saying is that we've had 3 years that you've not, and Jeff, you have not had the opportunity to experience. And we've had a number of disappointments. And I think that we have certain commissioners that have been very involved in design of this plan, very, very intimately involved. And perhaps those commissioners should not be sitting at the table negotiating with Mr. Ishbia. It's just a thought.
Okay, I think we're gonna take a little poll around the room and see who you want to negotiate, which two people you want to negotiate. And I'll start with whoever wants to start, whatever end of the table wants to start first.
This is solely for the donation, correct?
Right, solely for the donation. Correct.
And it's a conversation team.
Correct.
I don't even know what
It's a
we're negotiating.
conversation team.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think the word negotiation is the wrong word altogether.
Excellent. Okay, fine.
For me, Christina would be Commissioner Koto and Commissioner James.
James Hemming.
The same.
Jeff Tyson.
I would say the same with Eric as a potential alternate.
Okay. Colleen?
I'd like to see Eric and you. Eric, I think you're very good at conversation and helping move talking points along. I really would like to see you join us.
Okay. Warren?
I'm happy to let you and Eric go, and I have full faith and confidence that you will represent the Park District in our community.
I'm happy. I think it has to be a buy-in from you because of time commitments and timing. So I'm happy to continue.
Yeah, I'm happy to continue too.
have Warren, and I'm happy to have you. So when things get scheduled, we'll see who's available, and it will either be Warren or me. Is that fair?
Fair.
Okay. Okay. Does that work for everyone? Okay.
Can you clarify that I heard Christina and who's the second? Is it Eric or?
Christina, and then depending upon the timing of the meeting set, if Eric is available, it will be Eric. If Eric is unavailable, it will be Warren.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think that brings us to
That's it.
our second section of remarks from visitors. Excellent. Remarks from visitors. I think you know the information. Your opportunity to address the board on any issue when called upon, please come to the center position in front of the commissioner, state your name for the record, speak directly to the board, all comments under 3 minutes. This is not a question and answer forum, so is this on or off?
Turn it on.
Yep.
Turn it off.
I had not planned on saying anything tonight, but after listening to this rather disjointed conversation that you've all had about this donation, and whether or not you're talking about an actual donation or the design of the dog beach, it kind of went off the rails. But I'm glad to hear that you got it back focused on having a conversation about the actual donation. I'm not here to dispute or argue or comment on any of the design factors that you've already adopted. That's been adopted, that's your design. Hopefully you're going to be able to go forward with that. This donation does nothing to unify the plan that you have for an entire unified beachfront. You still have the issue that's hanging out there at 261. So at some point, you're going to have to address that issue. When you go to the donor to discuss this donation, I recall sitting in this meeting when the donation was made to this board. The gentleman who made the donation on behalf of Mr. Ishbia was sitting in front of me. He clearly made the statement that this was a donation that was being made without strings. That theme was repeated in a very well orchestrated PR effort that went on in all of the Chicago press immediately following this board meeting. As I sat in this meeting tonight, I'm hearing that this is not a donation without strings, but in fact, there seems to be a lot of strings attached to it. The least of which is naming rights to a dog beach that is incredibly controversial. I'm asking you not to be tone deaf to this community about the volatility of potentially granting naming rights associated with this donation. This entire issue is so divisive. To attach a name to this, and it's the name of a family, and they may be very well intentioned, but they have served to divide this community in a way it has never been divided before. So please, I just ask you, keep that in mind. Don't be tone deaf to the community. And if you can, negotiate a donation in the spirit that it was originally made, which was without strings. Naming rights is not without strings. Thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Is there anyone, oh, Susie.
Susie Schreiber, 152 Glenwood, Winnetka. I had not planned to speak tonight, but I do have the old, and I do reiterate old, James, probably 1993 Policy and Procedure Manual, which your present Policy and Procedure Manual was built upon and, just refined. But when you went to 5.06, naming and renaming park sites, I flipped it open, and I don't know what your current one says because I only carry a flip phone and I can't look things up. But it says on 5.06E, should the board decide to name an unnamed park or rename an existing park, the proposed name must meet the following criteria. It should have the endorsement of at least 250 Park District residents. The above endorsement should set forth the merits of the proposed name. After the qualifications of A and B above have been met and accepted by the board, a public announcement of the proposed name shall be made. At least 60 days after public announcement of the proposed name, the board shall vote on the proposal. And during my 12 years of office, these are part of the conditions, or what's the better word? Thank you. Criteria that we addressed and followed, and we did have input from the public. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you.
And thank you for having an open discussion tonight. It's greatly appreciated.
Is there any other people that want to speak? Mary?
I'm speaking with these words for Lily Frazen, who is unable to be here this evening. I do have the current policy in this, so we'll see how that differs. So he He says, "I apologize for not being able to attend the meeting. I am currently, well, probably not currently, but anyway, I'm currently at my son's flag football practice in one of Winnebago's beautiful parks." This donation was offered in a public meeting, in quotes, "to support the execution of the 2030 Lakefront Master Improvement Plan," close quotes. The donation will allow improvements, depending on your definition of improvements, and alterations to and adjacent to land that the donor has an existing contract to acquire. While that contract is currently being described as dormant, what is to say that it will not be reanimated once the Park District has invested a combination of taxpayer and donor funds to execute the project? The improvements would presumably be swapped along with the land. We should not be improving land that we do not know we will maintain ownership of. Now, from the Park District Manual, he talks about 5.06, the naming and renaming of park sites. The terms of the policy, C. The district will not support or endorse any political party, candidate, agenda, or viewpoint, or endorse or promote any religious group or viewpoint. Therefore, the district will not accept donations or naming rights which are associated with any political party, candidate, agenda, or viewpoint of any kind, or with any religious group or viewpoint. Then he goes on to say, the public statement that initially offered this donation very clearly laid out both a viewpoint and agenda with regards to the execution of the 2030 Lakefront Master Plan. Park District business may not always be political, but this is quite clearly a topic with a variety of agendas and viewpoints being represented in the public discourse. My agenda and viewpoint is largely focused on practical safety concerns. Every additional perpendicular structure that goes out into the lake is hostile to those who enjoy being in the lake. They decrease navigability. I don't know.
Navigability.
It's too smart for me. And they push paddle boarders, kayakers, and open water swimmers farther from the shore, where the wind and chop are considerably worse. They reduce sight lines for lifeguards and other beach goers to monitor what is going on in the lake. They also create rip currents and unpredictable wave patterns. Finally, they reduce the area of the beach where one can safely get to shore during rough conditions. A swimmer, paddleboarder, kayaker, or boater who gets too close to these structures can be severely injured. More large perpendicular structures will make Elder and Centennial less safe. Yes, Elder will be less safe than it currently is right now while it is closed for safety reasons. I think it is best that this donation remain, in quotes, dormant, until the donor no longer has any official business before or contracts with the Winnetka Park District. Every citizen of the Park District should have an equal voice. Please adhere to your written policy and encourage the donors to delay their generosity until a donation can no longer be linked to a particular agenda or viewpoint. So Willie would like this, if possible, to be put into the packet. And I think he has some good points.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Willie. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Oh, excuse me, Prisha.
Hi, my name is Tricia Miller. I'm at 246 Scott in Winnetka. And it's kind of distressing to see what's going on about the beaches in Winnetka in general. But then when this donation came up, I was out of town, so I didn't read about it till later on. I don't think that this donation has to be viewed as, you know, a no strings attached thing. It's not. It appears that people in the village need to be discussing this more openly, and it should be publicized at village council as well. I think go ahead and talk to this guy, but I don't see why he couldn't present this entire package of donation to you beforehand so that you could discuss it amongst yourselves. It seems like he wants something for what he's giving. Otherwise, why wouldn't he present it in full beforehand? Thank you.
Can I speak for myself now?
Sure. I was gonna say, there are only 2 people left who haven't spoken. One is the press. I don't think she'll speak.
Small group tonight. I just want to say about the amount of money. I heard what you said tonight. It's the largest cash donation, cash, money, in 119 years. But to me, 40 acres by the Bowls is certainly worth more than $3 million. So this should be a $300 million donation. I mean, it's not, it's peanuts, it's peanuts. Although, to me, $3 million is a lot of money. So I think that we have to take into consideration of all the donations that have been given and say, what would they be worth in today's dollars? They might not have been cash, but. So I kind of took offense to your, I'm talking out of the director, sorry. But the record, they came out with the fact that the largest donation ever given, but we should have said in cash maybe, to the Winnetka Park District in 119 years. It's not true. It's really not. I mean, the history of Winnetka is amazing. So we're lucky to be part of it, and I hope we get this settled. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we have no more people who wish to comment in public for themselves or for anyone else, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion, may I have a motion to go to closed session pursuant to 5 ILCS 120/section 2C1 for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body. 5 ILCS 120/section 2C5 for the purchase or lease of property. 5 ILCS 120/2C6 for setting of a price for sale or lease of property. And 5 ILCS 120/2C11 for litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent. Second?
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion? That's a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hemmings?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Commissioner Root?
Yes.
Commissioner Tyson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lesson?
Yes.
Commissioner Koto?
Yes.
That motion passes.
Excellent.
It is 8.
Okay. We do not anticipate any action after close.